Hey, Kevin. Okay. I see you on the galley here and your sound is off. Your picture was up for a while. Now it's gone. I'm calling you. How do you turn your picture on? Yeah, I see that. Hmm. Okay. When the meeting starts. Yeah. Well, I'm just thrilled. Look at all of us who are here. Mark, I know I just did that. Yeah. I'm muted right now.
No, you're not.
Oh, hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Well,
Now you're muted.
Where's Pat? She might have trouble zooming. Let's see.
I hadn't seen her.
Let's see. I'll text her.
It's 6 o'clock, so we'll get started. If everyone would please mute their devices to start, and unmute them when I call on you to testify, that would be helpful. Sometimes there's a lot of feedback otherwise, so I appreciate that. Good evening again, and welcome to tonight's public hearing. My name is John Urino. I'm the zoning examiner for the city of Tucson. I conduct rezoning hearings on behalf of the mayor and council, and I make findings of fact, which I put into a written report, along with my recommendation, which I then send along to the mayor and council for their consideration and for their final decision. My report will be based on the information submitted to me, which includes the rezoning application, the staff report, all written approvals and protests, all correspondence, and the testimony given at tonight's public hearing. I will also include in the record all documents submitted to me up to the close of the public hearing. A recording of tonight's testimony is being made. If requested, a transcript will be prepared. Also, Planning and Development Services posts the video of the meeting on their website. With that in mind, if I call on you to testify, I would ask you to please speak clearly and to begin your testimony by stating your name and your address. The process goes like this. After tonight's public hearing, once it's closed, I first complete a preliminary report within 5 working days, and then a final report. The final report will be issued 2 weeks after the close of the public hearing. For those of you who wish to receive a copy of the preliminary report and are not a listed party on the case, please send an email to tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov. Again, tucsonrezoning@tucsonaz.gov. or call the Planning and Development Services Department. A copy of the final report will be available from the Planning and Development Services Department, and I send the final report to the mayor and council. At the scheduled public hearing on the case, the mayor and council then vote on the matter based on my recommendation, along with other factors. Tonight's public hearing will proceed in the following fashion. I will open the public hearing and ask Ms. Maria Gayoso of the Planning and Development Services Department to give a brief presentation of the case. Following that, I will call on anyone in the audience who wishes to speak tonight. I've received requests through Planning and Development Services from 5 individuals who wish to speak, so I will call on those folks first, but anyone else who's present tonight and wishes to testify is welcome to do so. So I'll just start with the folks who emailed in requests and then proceed to others. So with those ground rules in mind, Ms. Gayoso, would you please present the staff report?
Good evening, Mr. Urino. Yes, my name is Maria Gayoso. I'm a principal planner at the City of Tucson Planning and Development Services Department. And yeah, this rezoning application is a request by Planning and Development Services, PDSD, on behalf of the Rincon Heights and Pie Island neighborhood associations to rezone the residentially zoned properties within the Rincon Heights and the Pie Island neighborhoods from R2 and R3 to NR2 and NR3, and adopting the Rincon Heights Pie Island Design Manual as a condition of the NPZ, the Neighborhood Preservation Zone overlay. The Unified Development Code, Section 5.10, specifies the standards and procedure related to NPCs, and it specifies that the NPC requirements apply to residentially zoned properties only that are visible from the right-of-way and require a building permit. Just as a little bit of a background, back in 2008, the mayor and council adopted the NPZ enabling ordinance in response to the increasing number of structures being built in National Register historic districts near the University of Arizona. So in order to be eligible for the NPC, neighborhoods must be listed on the National Register of Historic Districts or be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And also it has to be initiated by the mayor and council. The mayor and council initiated the Rincon Heights Pie Island NPC back in April of 2021. To date, there's been 2 NPCs that have been adopted by mayor and council. The first one was in 2009, the Feldman's Neighborhood Preservation Zone. And the second one in 2011, the Jefferson Park NPC. So I have to mention this is a grassroots effort. The 2 neighborhood associations have held since 2019 several public outreach efforts between public meetings, webinars, a block party. They have met and defined goals for the NPC, and through a grant, they were able to secure consultant to draft the NPC design manual. And I believe they're here present if you want to ask them more about their public outreach efforts. This NPC, the Rincon Heights Pie Island NPC, includes that design manual that defines the criteria for new development and redevelopment to meet certain parameters to be able to demonstrate that they, blend with the characteristics of the neighborhood. So you have, items included in that design manual related to the front yard, to the scale of any new buildings, the exterior walls, parking areas, landscaping, roofs, etc. So there's some items in the design manual that represent more restrictions than the underlying zoning. And by the way, the underlying zoning still remains. So one of the more restrictive items in the design manual is related to height. In the R2, the maximum permitted height is 25 feet. In the R3 is 40 feet. The design manual establishes that new construction is to maintain the human scale of the streetscape. When that new construction, of course, is visible from the right of way. So they provide some guidelines on how to break up that massing of any new construction. And the other one is related to setbacks. In the R2, the setbacks is from the sides and the rear property lines is 6 feet or 2/3 the height, whichever is greater. And in the R3 is 10 feet or 3/4 the height, whichever is greater. In the design manual, the setback is required to be uniform with the neighborhood to maintain the same setbacks that you see around in the neighborhood. So that's just an example of criteria included in the design manual. The design manual also includes privacy mitigation techniques, especially when windows and balconies face the adjacent residences. There's some examples there related to lighting to be shielded away from adjacent residences. And then there's also this component related to incentives. So for instance, an incentive is if somebody would like to make use of the alleyway for vehicular access, a condition may be that surfacing of that portion of the alley may be required. Also, the design manual allows for an increase of up to 10% of the lot coverage, with the condition that the structure on site is maintained as a contributor to the National Register. This new NPC and the design manual, if these were to be approved by mayor and council, then the development criteria specified in the design manual becomes mandatory for those who require a building permit and are proposing construction or reconstruction that is visible from the right of way. Mr. Urino, the Planning and Development Services Department received to date about 20 signed forms supporting the rezoning, about 27 emails supporting the rezoning, received about 14 signed protest forms, about 2 emails protesting the rezoning. There were about 5 unspecified signed forms and email that, the person did not specify if they were, totally sure if they should or not support the rezoning. And one thing I have to mention is that a single submittal represents either approval or protest for multiple properties. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. PDSD supports, recommends approval of the proposed rezoning. And if you have any questions for me, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Gayoso. I appreciate it very much. The first person who's asked to speak tonight on my list is Barbara Marshall. Ms. Marshall, would you like to go ahead and start with your name and address, please, for the record?
Am I unmuted?
You're good. Go for it.
Okay. Yes, my name is Barbara Marshall. My address of residence is 846 East 8th Street, and I have 3 properties that I rent out and have been in my family for over 80 years. So that on 10th Street in Rincon Heights. So I kind of cover both areas. And I guess you call me an old timer for sure, because my family's been around for so long and had presence in these neighborhoods for many years. And a long time ago, it was mostly railroad families, and they've and a few teachers maybe, but we've changed over the complexion of that in our time of renting out and doing things. So my thing is that we've given a lot of properties, houses, I should say, away in getting student housing and things done. We have I think I can't even count them all, but I know it's over 15 apartment buildings, I guess, or complexes in the 2 areas. And then, of course, the U of A, who said they would never cross the 6th Street, is now knocking on 7th Street's door. And so it's to me, we need that really diminishes so much of our historical persona, and it gives us a kind of a hard, a hard feeling that we get to give so much, and we need to I feel like we need to be given some help in maintaining our historic neighborhoods and protecting the integrity of our properties. And that's my reason for thinking we need to have this happen.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marshall. Appreciate it very much. The next person on my list is Diana Lett. Ms. Lett.
Thank you. My name is Diana Lett. My residential address is 1309 North First Avenue, Tucson, Arizona. I am speaking on behalf of the Feldman's Neighborhood Association. I'm not a paid speaker. Feldman's was the first NPZ. We became an NPZ in late 2009. That's a little over 14 years ago. So we've had ample opportunity to observe how the NPZ works. And by and large, we've been very pleased, and we would, of course, support other neighborhoods having that same protection. What we have found is that the NPZ does not prevent construction. It does not even prevent construction of rather large projects. What it does is it helps us to guide the design features of the construction. And I speak not only as somebody who has negotiated with developers repeatedly, but also as somebody who has personally gone through the NPZ review process for an addition to one of my own properties. We just have nothing but good to say about the NPZ as a general concept. We certainly do believe that Rincon Heights and Pie Island neighborhoods have historic resources that deserve protection in very much the same way that our neighborhood does. Most of our historic resources are homes, and so our NPZ protects the streetscape. That's exactly what the Rincon Heights NPZ would do. And so, Mr. Iurino, we highly, highly support this and encourage you to recommend approval. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Lett. I appreciate your input. The next person on my list is Laura Tabili. Ms. Tabili?
Thank you, Mr. Iurino. Yes, Laura Tabili, 116 North Mountain Avenue. I live in Rincon Heights. I've lived in my home for 25 years, and before that I rented for 9 years, and love Rincon Heights. I really love Rincon Heights. I was so pleased when I came to purchase a home that I was able to stay in the neighborhood. And I'm also really pleased that Barbara Marshall spoke, because our neighborhood wasn't always a student neighborhood. I was in 2007-08, I was on the committee that got historic district status for the neighborhood. Well, it was a longer process, but anyway. And of course, I thought that would protect us from inappropriate development, but it really doesn't protect us at all. And so the NPZ is the next best thing, really, to protect us from inappropriate development. As Barbara Marshall said, this wasn't always a student neighborhood, but it has been for, I think, almost 50 years, going back through the records as we did to make the historic nomination. Students started moving into the neighborhood in the 1970s, and we have lots of students here. I think for the most part, we like living among students. I don't think too many people would have bought their house in either Pie Island or Rincon Heights if they didn't like living among students, because de facto it's a student neighborhood. And most of the landlords that we have in the neighborhood are very responsible and considerate. But particularly since the legislature stopped giving money to the university to build on-campus dorms, we've seen a real change in the character of the type of student rentals that are being built. And in fact, it's not only students, but I have to be frank, it seems to me that it's mostly absentee landlords who see our neighborhood as a place to take wealth out of. They're not too concerned about the character of the neighborhood, and one or two of them have said so in so many words when we have remonstrated with them about their what they plan to do. Where was I? So it's a student neighborhood, and that's fine. We have multi-housing, we have multi-story housing. I have a 2-story apartment catty corner from me, and I have garden apartments across the street, and we've never had any problems. But there are some real nuisance properties, and this is the resort of the NPZ is an effort to have some control over whether nuisance properties are built in the neighborhood. So I think that's probably all I have to say. Yeah, unless there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your participation. The next person is Molly Moore. Ms. Moore?
Okay. So, my name is Molly Moore. I live at 921 East 7th Street, 1 block south of the university. I have been here since 1984, and I have seen the whole downtown and our historic neighborhoods go through many changes. And I like living down here, and I like living with students because it's a very lively place to live. And the NPZ does not block development or infill, which I very much support, but it provides direction for how to develop this neighborhood in a positive way that maintains its livability and our historic status, which gives a tax benefit to those of us who live here. And these two neighborhoods have only 26% owner occupied, whereas the average in the city is 50%. And to have a stable neighborhood, you have to have people who are committed to living there, whether they be owners or longtime renters. And I see the historic status more as a tool to help us keep a stable neighborhood where we can watch out for each other, and including the young students. And since Feldman and Jefferson Park got the NPZ, and West University has historic zoning, and Sam Hughes is very expensive, we have become the target of developers who want to make a quick buck and leave and have no concern for the outcome of what they do. We're like the stepchild right now. So it's taken a lot of effort for us to get to the point where we can try to have some protection. I myself, on my block, I have 3 party houses on the same side of the street, and 1 fraternity on 6th Avenue across the alley. And I am constantly involved in loud parties. And this type of bad development by outside forces are taking advantage of the very young students. For example, on the corner at Tyndall and 7th by me, they built a swimming pool in the front yard and put up a block wall. Then they advertise online to make it into a party house. And for example, frequently when I call the police on a party, young students will come to my door to make nice. And this one girl said to me, well, we're college students and we just want to have the college experience. And this university has got a party school reputation that some developers are taking advantage of. And it's not just protecting ourselves who live here, but also the students. Because these party houses like this, not only do they make noise at all hours, but they also develop into fights. And I've seen a lot of that. And they are sitting ducks for crime, particularly burglary, especially after Christmas break when students come home with fancy new toys, electronics that are easy to steal. And so this kind of predatory development, I'm very concerned to help do what we can to end it. And I hope that you will recommend our application to the City Council. That's about all for now.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. I appreciate your input. The next person listed is Stacy Plasman. Ms. Plasman?
Hi, I'm Stacy Plasman. My address is 1803 East 9th Street in Rincon Heights. I lived at another address in Rincon Heights for over 20 years at 1750 East 10th Street, a small apartment court. And I like Rincon Heights so much that bought a house here too, that I live. Okay, my name is Stacy Plasman. I'm president of Rincon Heights Neighborhood Association. And I'm speaking tonight to share RHNA's strong support for the Rincon Heights Pie Island NPZ. Rincon Heights and Pie Island neighborhoods are adjacent to the U of A, and both neighborhoods are on the National Register of Historic Districts. The historic character of our neighborhoods is valued, treasured, and should be protected and preserved. However, the zoning in our area is weak and emboldens predatory developers to buy up property in our neighborhoods, bulldozing or disfiguring and uglifying the homes, very often causing them to be delisted from the historical register. In their place appear unattractive nuisance properties that compromise the quality of life for all residents, longstanding residents, and students alike. Zoning needs to be strengthened with an NPZ, with the design manual providing guidance to future development to ensure that the development is appropriate, thus preserving the streetscape of the neighborhood and the quality of life for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Plasman. That is the list of people who asked ahead of time to speak, but I'm welcoming anyone who wishes to testify at tonight's hearing to please start raising your hand. Thank you very much, Mr. Homan.
Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
I actually requested an opportunity to speak. I sent that in yesterday. I hope.
Well, it didn't come to me, and I apologize for that, but here we are now. So please
Okay,
go
we're
ahead.
ready to go. Okay, moving on, huh? Very good. Well, good evening. My name is Mark Homan. My wife, Barbara Homan, and I own the properties at 1619 East 8th Street and 1611 East 8th Street. We are homeowners and landlords. We have lived here for 48 years. We moved into a beautiful, physically attractive neighborhood many years ago, but threats from the university to tear down a big swath of our neighborhood, including our home, bullying from the RTA and the city on the Broadway project, threatening more destruction, absentee developers creating animal houses where a nice family dwelling once graced the neighborhood, and other intrusions leaving scars that could have been just too much to overcome. But this is one tough neighborhood with people who would not give up on bringing our remarkable place back to life. And we have. The list of vitalizing elements we have put into place has been remarkable. A few highlights. A memorandum of understanding with the Arizona Board of Regents, University, and Mayor and Council, ending the planned demise of our homes. A National Historic District that affirms our history and its importance. A neighborhood garden that not only brings people together and organically grown food to the table, but brings plants and seeds to help other neighborhoods create their own special place. A neighborhood park established with gorgeous tile benches for relaxing and color, designed and installed by neighbors, many of whom, like myself, with limited artistic talent, guided by real neighborhood artists. Over 1,000 trees and at least an equal number of understory plants inviting the eye and cooling heat islands. Improvements to Highland, 9th, 10th Streets, development of the Broadway Overlay District, and we established a neighborhood association to expand neighborhood friendships and bring people together to take care of our special place. That's what brings us here tonight. We have worked hard, thousands and thousands of volunteer hours, to bring our little community back to life, welcome new residents, create a livable, visually attractive environment, and preserve what we have accomplished. The Neighborhood Preservation Zone will be a valuable part of our continuing story. We're strongly in favor of the proposed NPZ. It will preserve our National Historic District, which is threatened by properties becoming non-contributing as a result of changes to the exterior appearance of the building, removing contributing features. Promote revitalization efforts by assisting property owners with guidance on property improvements. Promote revitalization efforts by strengthening attention to and enhancing the physical character of the neighborhood, and prevent the deterioration of the neighborhood character, which occurs when changes to properties are done with little or no regard to appearance, community impact, and residential use. It will not be overly burdensome and expensive. I have made significant improvements to our properties, done in a way that regards what our neighbors and visitors will experience as they move through the neighborhood. Had the NPZ been in place at the time, it would not have affected these improvements, particularly to the front, because these would not have required a permit, the nature of the improvements. Some others requiring a permit, not seen from the street, would also not have been effective. One change with permit would have required NPZ attention, but this was done with an eye toward visual impact in the area. Having looked at the NPZ provisions, if the provisions had come into play, it would likely have been a fairly easy process, similar to what Diana is talking about. Some owners may be concerned about property values. It would seem pretty obvious to me that a more beautiful, historically relevant neighborhood would increase property values. Development that ignores these features and those using low-grade construction, a discouraging trend, would more likely reduce property values. I believe that Feldman's and Jefferson Park have seen property values increase. Preserving unique, vibrant neighborhoods benefits the entire community, and this should be a priority for the city. I hope you agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Mr. Kozachik, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Urino. I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts. I know one of the challenges to these discussions is that this is a rezoning. And so it's important in any situation like this to assure that there has been a very inclusive and extensive outreach effort. Mark Holman just mentioned it a second ago. We've been talking about this with the neighbors and with city staff, and you'll note you've got several city staff members on here on this call as well. This conversation didn't just pop up a few weeks ago. We've been talking about this for a long time, and there's been extensive outreach. To the neighbors' credit, they have held pop-up events. They've held numerous opportunities for people to offer their input as the conditions of the NPZ have evolved over time. And so so you have not heard anybody come forward tonight saying, gee, I never heard about this and never had a chance to get my oar in the water. That's because that wouldn't be true, wouldn't be accurate. So this has been a very inclusive process. Now I've represented the area around the university for into the 15th year right now. That includes Feldman's, it includes West University, Pie Allen, it includes Rincon Heights, of course, Sam Hughes, all the neighborhoods that are largely well-established historic neighborhoods on the perimeter of the university. In each of them, we have seen a similar dynamic, and that is the tendency of the university to want to expand outward, and the tendency of the neighbors to want to preserve the investment that they've made in their homes. The NPZ has worked in Feldman's to a great degree. The designation of historic status in several of the other neighborhoods around campus, some of which I mentioned, has also worked to support that effort. One of the challenges that we have, though, and one of the earlier speakers mentioned it, is the percentage of rentals in many of these neighborhoods is extremely high. And when you have a local investment working with local residents, that's one thing. We have seen far too often, though, absentee owners making investments, buying homes, and coming in without any personal investment in the character and the preservation of the character of the neighborhoods. Come in and simply knock down structures and build what have turned into party houses. I'll give you one example that was in Rincon Heights a few years ago. There was a home that was over 100 years old. I think it was 110 years old. It is no more. It was bladed, it was knocked down, it turned into essentially an off-campus frat house that has resulted in numerous loud parties, numerous instances of us having to meet over there with Tucson Police Department, University Community Outreach, and the neighbors who live in the area. Had the NPZ been in effect, that 100-year-old home would likely still be standing and be occupied by hopefully somebody who would care about the surrounding neighborhood and want to invest themselves in not only the character, but also the ongoing activities in the neighborhood and be invested in the community. So I would absolutely support you, request that you support this effort. The neighbors have done yeoman's labor in getting this thing to you right now. It will be a boon to the preservation effort. And as you likely know, I'm going to be leaving before this gets to the mayor and council. I will be doing an outreach to the rest of the group and requesting that they support it as well. And I hope that they get a positive recommendation coming out of your office also.
Thank you, Mr. Kozaczek. Appreciate it. Next person is Kevin Bitton. Please go ahead, sir.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, great. I live at 248 North Tyndall, and I'm also representing my mom who lives at 246 North Tyndall. She was unable to attend, but she wanted to get some input in. I share all of the opinions that have already been voiced, so I won't waste people's time by repeating everything. But I just want to add a couple points. I want to reiterate the problem with the party houses. I had a party house directly across from me on 8th and a party house a little bit further down also on 8th. And I got up one Thursday at 3 o'clock in the morning to find 600 people in the street outside my house, including 3 guys who were lined up urinating on my building. So that was a bit of a shocker. TPD did eventually respond. It took 12 squad cars to get that situation under control. One of the houses is no longer a party house. The other one, which is a little bit further away, is still a problem. It's one of these places with a swimming pool in the front yard. And there's just no intention to contribute to community at all with some of these properties. They're definitely nuisance properties. And just to reiterate, I love living in this neighborhood. I'm president of the Pine Island Neighborhood Association, and I'd like it to stay livable. At the time, I had a tenant that needed to be up at 5 a.m. for work. And so my responsibility to that person was compromised. So I really want to see there be some protection for the great character of this neighborhood. And I've been here since 2008, and I intend to stay here for the rest of my life. So that's it.
Thank you very much for your participation. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard on tonight's case? Hearing no one, I want to thank everyone for their participation. Go right ahead.
Nancy, you're muted.
Hi, I was raising my hand. I thought you would see my hand. Well, it was March 22nd, 2020. I went over to 6th Street to a multiple housing unit. I'm not sure if it was a frat that got kicked off the university, but I asked them if they would mind turning the music down. A group of guys, and I asked them nicely, decided to surround me and mock me. And this was right at the beginning of COVID, when we were all concerned about, are we going to get this? And nobody was wearing a mask. I asked them to back up a little bit because of COVID. They, again, just started mocking me. My concern is that some of the students in our neighborhood are wonderful. They're very caring about their property. They even a few of them come to our neighborhood association meetings, but a lot of them, unfortunately, are creating some dangerous situations in our neighborhood. For instance, running stop signs, running red lights, again, making a lot of noise in the middle of the night. We've all experienced that. When I went to college at Indiana University back in the 70s, the university there had a great plan to put all of the noisy apartments and frat and sorority houses all in one group, away from any residential area. I thought that was brilliant. I am very disappointed that the U of A has not looked at that as a possibility ever, ever, ever. So I would like to live here for the rest of my life. My husband and I bought a house here in 1988, and the address is 801 East 7th Street. We also have to contend with the U of A parking issue too, with a lot of people emerging from the school into our neighborhoods after school. And it just seems like some parts of our society have gotten a little bit ruder, even when we're trying to be polite and asking people to do things, even like picking up after your dog in our neighborhood. And I get concerned about students who are not doing that also. I've actually seen it in person. So I know that they're here temporarily, and I get that they want to have a lot of fun, but I really would like to limit developers who don't really have a stake in this neighborhood being able to build. To me, it's greed, sheer greed, and also a lack of respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robbins. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard?
Hi, I just want to say one thing. I'm Marlene Rigoli and I'm at 324 North Euclid. And my aunt has owned this house since 1960. And I just strongly believe in preserving history and preserving these historic homes. So just wanted to push for that and just tell you that I strongly support it, and I think it's very important to preserve these old historic homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rigoli. Would anyone else in the audience like to be heard? I think not. So I want to thank everyone for their participation tonight. Your involvement is very, very important to the community at large and your neighborhoods as well. So I'm closing the hearing on case TPENT 01240004 Rincon Heights, Pion, NPZ. And I wish everyone a safe and lovely evening. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody who showed up.
Thanks,
Good night.
Molly, for
Thank
getting
you,
everything
everyone.
going.
Yeah, thank you guys for all your hard work.